Well, it's so nice to meet you. Um,
Likewise.
yeah, so my name is Shanique, and I am a journalist here at Aspire TV. I had a chance to come to New York, go to Broadway, and view the play, and I was blown away, honestly.
Aw.
The Lion King is literally my favorite movie ever. So I like jumped for joy when I was like, oh, I get to cover this.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited. And I just want to kind of start off with, now that Broadway is back, it's returned, we've had a crazy almost 2 years. What has that experience been like for you as an actor? And like, can you talk a little bit about the journey to returning?
Yeah. I think that like just us, just you mean getting back into the show
Yes.
itself? Yeah, it was. So we had a 4 week rehearsal process, which included um, working in a studio for actually working in a studio for 2.5 weeks before we even set foot back on the stage. But I mean, as you can imagine, it's like the first couple of weeks were spent just kind of getting ourselves reacquainted with each other, and just kind of sharing what our experiences have been over that last 18 months. A lot of it was that, and that was even before we were really able to kind of dive into the material, right? Like that was a lot of the focus. But it was a 4 week rehearsal process, 2 weeks in the 2.5 weeks in the studio, and then that week of like tech rehearsals and stuff, getting back into the actual show before we did it in front of an audience. And it was daunting. It was hard on our bodies, it was hard on our voices, but I think at the end of the day, everybody was just so excited to be able to tell this particular story again, and to be able to perform in front of live audiences again, because it was, that was our lives for a big portion of our lives for a very long time, mine in particular for what 16 years. So getting back to being able to tell this story to an audience live and in person was kind of superseded all of the stuff that our bodies, the maybe some of the pain that our bodies were going through, and just kind of the just all of the emotions over the last 18 months. I think that the most important thing, and the thing that people were most looking forward to, was getting back in front of a live audience.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned just, being a veteran and being in this game for 16 years, and a part of this return to Broadway, specifically with Disney, is, we're back and times are, for us, is not any different, right? But for
Yeah.
the world, it's this rising of representation and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, what has that been like, or what does that mean to you, like to represent characters and for other Black and Brown people to see themselves reflected through you?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been important, and that's always been something that's super important to me, especially as a Black man in this business, to be able to represent a positive male influence, a positive Black male influence up there on that stage. Excuse the sirens. A king for for little Black boys, and Black kids in general, to be able to come and see the show. That's always been something that's important, and I think right now, it's I think that it's just even more prevalent. With everything that's going on in the world, I think that it's just even it's taken such a kind of a front place on a front burner place, in most people's lives, for this type of representation to exist on Broadway right now. So yeah, it makes telling this, it gives a definitely a weight and more importance when we go into the theater and are telling this story every night, knowing that that is something that people need right now, and just kind of proud ultimately to be able to represent that for our community.
Yeah, and being in the industry for over a decade, how have you seen that kind of shift in the Broadway culture, with more people on the stage that look like us, people behind the scenes that look like us? Like how has that changed over the years?
It's changing, you know what I mean? We have a long way to go, and it is changing for sure. I think that when you look at when I started theater, I mean, I've been doing theater professionally for 26 years, almost. And so when I started, it definitely wasn't this, but it is interesting coming back from our pandemic. You know, all of the plays that were on Broadway were written by black playwrights. And so that was, that was something that just would not have existed then. So there are changes being made, and definitely, I mean, I see it with, with our show, especially, like, we've made uh, uh, a really concerted effort to hire more Black people on our production in in every facet. I think that that's something important and something that has been missing in theater and Broadway especially. So it's changing, and we have a long way to go. But I think that the difference is now that people are talking about it. It's not something that that people just kind of whispered about in corners. People are very vocal about it right now, and I will say that the powers that be are actually listening to that and making some changes, and we have a ways to go. But I think that people are committed to the work.
Yeah, and I love that that is the experience, that commitment to the work, and more than just, black squares on Instagram.
Yeah, right, right.
Um, and
Yeah.
so when now that, Broadway is back, what have you learned anything about yourself in returning to this role as Mufasa? Has it been revealing in any way?
It is, and it continues to it continues to do that. I think that everybody is kind of looking at this material and looking at this show through kind of a different lens, right? Like, from the audience to everybody in the cast, really. It's like they're in the audience specifically, there's applause breaks where there weren't before, like, you can hear, like, audible cries and sniffling where there wasn't before. I think that I've always said that, one of the things that makes Lion King such a timeless show is that you can see the show multiple times, you can do the show multiple times, and then you can identify with each individual's character's journey depending on where you are in your journey of growth, right? And I think that we all, like, over the past 18 months, kind of went through, like, a Nala phase, right? Where we're this warrior, fought against all odds to kind of, support and provide for the people who depended on us. And I think that, above all, the message of community and where Mufasa fits in that community, and kind of just being like the figurehead of that community, and how not only how people depend on him, but he depends on the community to uplift him too. That's been the thing that was missing for me, I think, in the role before. Is you always think of Mufasa as kind of the leader of this community, but he's as much as a part of this community that needs uplifting as he is in leading the community. So that's something that has kind of revealed itself to me both on stage in the character, but especially off stage as well. So it's yeah, it's crazy after 16 years still finding new stuff with the show.
Yeah, and the Lion King story in general,
Yeah,
what I took away as a kid as it being my favorite movie to now as an adult, I was like, whoa, this is
right.
a really deep
It's
movie.
that part. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. And so lastly, I just want to know, because here at Aspire TV, we live by the phrase, see yourself here. Can
Uh-huh.
you tell me when's the first time that you saw yourself reflected in the Broadway space and made you go, or just in the theater space as a whole that made you go, I'm gonna do that when I grow up?
I I actually love telling the story, and it's I come from a super underserved area in Indianapolis, Indiana, and theater was just not something that really existed at all for me, or that I had access to anyway. And then when I was in high school, I was in beginning choir, and one of my choir teachers had tickets to see Les Mis at the Murat Theater. It was a tour that was coming into town, and she took a few of us to go see it, and I didn't know anything about it, but I had just like kind of got forced into beginning choir and show choir and stuff like that, and I kind of, you know, begrudgingly was, you know, doing it. I didn't really want to be there, but sitting there seeing Les Mis, there was an understudy that was on for the role of Javert, and it was this Black guy, and he was one of like only 3 Black people in the entire production, and he was playing, you know, and he was playing this this character, and it was the first time that I really looked at theater and said, oh, people are actually out there doing this. They look like me. They're doing it well. They're getting paid to do it, and you know, this may be something that I need to take a little bit more seriously. And I still never really thought that I could make a career out of it, because this is something that was just kind of passing through. But one of the commitments that I made for myself is that I wanted to be what he was for other people. So even if I didn't do it professionally, I still wanted to, it's like, let me exist in this space where there's not a lot of us, right? And be this for whomever sees it, you know, whoever sees it. So that was the first time that I really saw and considered doing theater, you know, anything outside of a hobby, and considering that being the reason for doing it. So I'll never forget that. He kind of changed the course of my life.
Yes. And you know, I love full circle moments, because now you're doing that as your through your role as Mufasa. So kudos to you. Keep
Thank
shining,
you.
using your light and your talents to be a force in this world. And like I said, phenomenal job. I truly, truly enjoyed the production.
I
So
appreciate it. Thank you so much, Shanique.
you're so welcome. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.